Hey folks, in this demo I'm going to show how you can use Zuplo's MCP gateway to do authentication, translation and authorization over your MCP servers. This is particularly useful if you have a bunch of agents remotely running in the cloud or running in the same cloud to translate the different types of authentication options you might want to use, and again apply authorization at a central point so access control lives in a governed gateway with observability, audit, all that good stuff. So let's just draw this up. So actually what we'll imagine is that we're going to have the agent on the left here, and let's draw another box for the MCP server. But actually before I draw an MCP server, I'm going to imagine that you've got a REST or GraphQL API over here. I'm not going to show this in the demo right now, but one of the things that Zuplo can do is take your REST or GraphQL API and turn it into an MCP server so you don't have to write your own. But you may have a MCP server that you've already built using fast MCP or whatever it is your favorite. That's no problem. And you're going to put the Zuplo gateway in the middle here. And that's going to do your auth translation. It's going to do your auth as we'll show as well in this demonstration. Now, one of the key things is that the identity over here can be anything that you want now. So you could identify to the gateway with an API key, with IAM for your cloud, with IAM from different clouds, if you like, and we'll take care of the translation. This thing can be hosted anywhere, so it could be hosted on-premise in your data center. It could be hosted in the cloud with a secure tunnel connecting into your on-prem data center. It could be hosted adjacent in your cloud at our managed edge. Lots and lots of options for you there. And you can then talk on the back end to whatever identity you want. So this might be, AWS IAM aware. It might be an API key. It might be using auth 0. It doesn't matter. Zuplo can handle the translation for you, especially using workload ID federation. In this demo, I'm going to do something which is quite common we see actually, is that let's imagine that that you're running, actually the agent, you're running in GCP or Azure AWS is the same. And so it's IAM aware and it's running as a sort of service identity here. This is quite a clean way for an organization that's committed to one cloud to set things up. But you still don't want to couple that agent identity directly to the MCP server itself. So this is IAM aware and running in GCP. But all you want to do is set that up to trust the gateway and let the gateway be the access control point with all of the governance, etc. So your life is simpler, frankly, in terms of how you manage all this stuff. So obviously this can connect here using a JOT token from the GCP identity. In the demo, we'll generate that using a little script. We could be calling your API directly, and this thing acts as an MCP server that turns it into REST or GraphQL, which is very cool. Or, of course, if you've already built one, then we'll talk over here, and this both could use GCP IAM identity or any of the other things I've mentioned. We'll then show just a very quick demo of the authorization. We can support roles and groups, or you can use the programmability of Zuplo to actually customize how auth works, which I think is the most exciting feature here, frankly. All of this is programmable. You can write interceptors in the policy pipeline, but it's all very cool. Let's go and take a look over at Zuplo. So we're going to configure this. Here's my project. This is a brand new project with no virtual servers yet. I did set up some environment variables. So setting up this IAM config, as you would imagine, I need a bunch of configuration. So I just pasted these environment variables in here already for GCP. But one thing I want you to note, there are no secrets in here. Now, of course, Zuplo supports secrets, but we don't need secrets, and that's a really great benefit in this case because we're using workload identity federation. We actually don't need to put any secrets in our gateway at all. The trust is set up in the IAM ecosystem, and so secretless auth is a really great benefit because if you don't have secrets, you can't leak them, right? So that's nice. So no secrets, but we will be referencing these environment variables as we go through the demo. I'm going to go back over to code here. Actually, let's just pop back to the diagram. So let's pretend this service here, this is our inventory service. It has things like check availability and so on as tools. And we're going to pop back over to the Zuplo portal and we're going to add that MCP virtual server here. Now, I could use one of the the third-party ones we support, but we're setting up an internal service here. So let's just type in the name inventory service. And then I need the URL. So I'm just going to go and grab that. I've got to paste it over here. Copy that. So there's my URL for the MCP service. And I need to set up my inbound auth. Now we have a bunch of options. Is this for users? Is it for an agent? So this is the right option for an agent. And I'm going to use our basic JOT auth policy here. And I need to configure some things here. I actually don't need an issuer, but I do need an audience in this case. And I do need a JWK URL. So I'm going to put that in there. And I think that's all I need for the inbound auth. Now, next, do I want to filter and curate the tools, or do I just want to pass through? I can just allow whatever tools the thing exposes to pass through. People concerned about governance don't want to do that. They want to manage as tools appear and be able to do roles-based access control. So I'm going to choose that filter and curate option. I'm going to import. This works best for user-based. This live connect, we authenticate you and then pull the tools directly. Or you can use server cards. Now, server cards are not a ratified standard yet, but there is a schema out there and we support that. So I'm going to go and import a file I've got here that has my tools in. So here you can see I've got check availability and list inbound. So I'm going to add those two tools. And I can choose here, do I actually want to do roles-based access control on this? So I'm going to say yes. And I can choose to make these things public. If I don't set anything, then essentially access will be denied for everybody. So let's make them public for now. But later, what we'll do is we'll come in here and we'll add a role like admin. And then someone would need that permission to see this tool or to invoke it, which is pretty cool. But let's make it public for now. We can also put a hint on here and say this is a read-only, so it's fine. It's read-only. It's very safe. And then finally, we need to set our outbound auth. So I'm going to choose service auth here. I'm going to do, we're doing GCP. So upstream, GCP federated auth, and I need to copy a bunch more environment variables. So we will have one for audience. We will have one for the upstream account email. So that makes sure that, that we are using the right service account when calling the gateway. And then my workload identity provider is here. That's in an environment variable as you saw earlier. So we can finish that now, and that's going to configure my route for me. So you see we've got this policy stack here that does all the hard work. If I want to write custom policies to do interception, I can do that. I can also configure my inventory service to, the filter policy to do custom filtering based on a programmatic rule, but we're not going to try that just yet. So I'm going to save that now, and whilst that's saving, I'm actually going to show you a script I have over here that generates a JOT token. So let me just pull this into the window for you. Okay. So this is going to generate a JOT token for me that I can use to call. This is a short-lived JOT token, as it should be. And I can use that to call the gateway. So if I come up here, we've got a test console. This test console is not a full MCP test console, but it understands a little bit about, it can help you put together some simple prompts in MCP. And I'm going to try now to just list tools, and boom, I get a 401 unauthorized because I didn't have a header. So that's a problem. I'm going to enter the bearer token that I just copied. You can see there's my JOT token, and I hit send. I will get a different answer now. Input validation error. What? Oh, I'm trying to call a tool. Sorry. Yeah. Whoops. I need to list tools. There we go. Boom. Love doing live demos. So you can see now I've listed my tools. There is check availability and there is list inbound. So very nice. So I can see I'm actually able to call all the way through. This is a genuine setup. That is a service running in GCP. That was a genuine token from GCP IAM, and it's going through the gateway and it's calling out onto the back end with a different token that is scoped purely to that inventory service, which is important. If by some bizarre happening that token was to leak because the server did something silly like log it somewhere, then first of all, it's short-lived, and second of all, it's only can be used against that service. So it doesn't have a broad, the blast radius is limited. So actually, let's show that it's not very interesting to do this without actually calling a tool. So to do that, I'm actually going to use MCP inspector. So I'll pop over here, I'll paste in the URL. I need to copy that token again. Hopefully still within the time bounds of the token, and paste that in here. And then I will click connect. And yeah, look, I can see my tools here. So I've got check availability, let's call that. So I need to check the availability of SKU dash. I think it's just takes any data in as this demo. And then I need a date that needs to be valid. 0901. And then let's say run tool. And with a bit of luck, yeah, we get a success. So now what I want to do is actually show you the RBAC. So let's come in here. Let's just close this test console. Let's come back to the filter service here. And you can see that at the moment it's public, meaning you still need authentication, but anybody can call it. So let's add a new role. Let's say that we need someone with an admin role to call this. That token does not have any claims or roles in it. So I'm going to save that, and I'll save this, and that will just take a few seconds to deploy here. Whilst we're doing that, we will go back over to the MCP inspector. Let's clear this, and let's list tools. And now, notice we only got one tool. We didn't get the ability to call that tool. And if we did, we'd get a method not found error. We get an appropriate error for JSON RPC that says this, you can't call this. So that's a very quick demo showing simple auth translation from an agent identity into a gateway identity that is allowed to call the downstream service. That can be used for any kind of mapping. You could start with auth 0. You could even have a thing in AWS call a thing in GCP if that's what you need to do. And the gateway, you can choose where you host it. It doesn't matter whether you're hosting it in our edge, connected by a secure tunnel to your on-prem, or hosting it on-prem, self-hosted, or in a managed dedicated unit next to your data center in AWS or GCP or whatever. Hopefully demo makes sense. Pretty slick. Thank you.